Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me this Sunday evening for the Forex Breakdown. Now, while you're reading over the disclaimer, could you please type in a yes if you can hear me and see my screen? I just want to do a quick sound check so that I know everybody can hear me. Oh, great. Now, the one thing I really want to highlight is anytime you're trading, even with Nadex, binary options, spreads, and touch brackets, there is still risk involved. You should never trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. Now, my name is Gail Mercer, and I am the founder of Traders Help Desk. I've been trading over 15 years now. I started out with a company that actually programmed indicators for different platforms, and up until then, I did not know that we could actually see every movement in price throughout the day. And I just absolutely was astonished. And I've been in love with trading ever since. I did start out on the Forex market. And one of the reasons I did is because I had a full-time job. So I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and trade until I had to go to work. So that's where my experience comes from. Now, I have been a frequent contributor to Stocks and Commodities magazine, as well as Traders World Online Expo, and a lot of other places I write articles for. I've also been a speaker at the Wyckoff Volume Conference in TradeStation user groups. I'm also the author of a series of books that's available on Amazon, and most of them start with trading, binary Nadex binary options and spreads using, or it's a whole series. I think it's like 4 or 5 books now, and you can get those on Amazon. Now, what I want to do tonight, this is the way I start my trading week every week. First, I look at market reports. Then I look at my charts. Now, most times I will not trade usually until Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now, there are days that Monday would be an exception. You just get a really good move on Monday. But, my typical trading days are actually Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now, I want the market to be moving when I start trading. Now, we're going to just briefly go through the products that Nadex offers for trading Forex. You have the binaries, you have the call spreads, and you have the touch brackets. Now, a lot of traders think if I'm in a binary, that's the only trade I can do. Actually, you could do a binary, with a call spread, you could do a binary with a touch bracket. There are so many ways that Nadex has given us to actually trade when our setup comes in, that, I can take one trade setup and actually turn it into 4 or 5 trades, okay? And that's what I want you to keep in mind as we're going through these charts today. Because, let's say, for example, I'm anticipating a retracement on a 360. I could trade that retracement on the 360 and turn around and do a touch bracket for the way back down, okay? So keep your mind open about all the different ways that you could potentially trade something that I'm showing tonight, okay? Now, let's see what market reports we have tonight. Well, first, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we don't have any significant market reports. There's nothing, okay? Then Wednesday morning, we do have on the British pound the GDP and the manufacturing production. These are month-over-month reports. What does that mean? It means that you don't get a really big move when it's month-over-month, okay? Whereas if we had a quarter-over-quarter, and if it was quarter-over-quarter, it would be Q/Q here, okay? So that's going to be a bigger move generally, okay? So at 7:45 Wednesday, we do have the Euro main refinancing rate and the monetary policy statement. Now, this is generally not what moves the market. Generally, what moves the market is the press conference, okay? That comes in at 8:30 Wednesday morning. All of these times are in New York time, okay? Then at 8:30, we also have the USD CPI and the core CPI. Again, this is month over month, okay? Then at 2 p.m. that day, we have the FOMC meeting minutes. Now, the meeting minutes generally does not create extreme volatility, okay? But it can create some volatility. Can everyone still hear me? Someone's complaining about the sound. Okay, just wanted to make sure. So you could get some volatility at 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, but don't expect a huge move because it's just the minutes, okay? Then Thursday, we have the OPEC meeting, and at 8:30, we have the PPI. Now, we're trading Forex, so if you're trading, for example, Canadian, you might be aware of the OPEC meetings because it's highly correlated with crude. But on most of the other currencies, that's not even going to create a bump for us. Okay? So the next thing I want to do is I'm using a weekly chart, a daily chart, and a 360-minute chart, which equates to 6 hours. And we're going to actually start at the top of the list with the Aussie. Now, all of the indicators you see on my chart are my proprietary indicators. I designed them. They are available through subscription, but they're not your standard indicators, okay? So when I'm looking at the Australian dollar, the one thing that I would notice is it seems like this moving average here is actually supporting price, okay? And that coincides to the stochastics moving up. You're getting very low on the momentum with the RSI, and my ADX is telling you, hey, the sellers are still in control, but they're getting weak, okay? So then when you go to the daily chart, you can see that there is an ATR directly above you. So that tells me that I probably do not want to enter this right now, okay? Because number one, if I entered this, you're going to hit resistance right here at 71.39. And then you have another resistance area up here at 7,200, okay? What I would like to see is that this goes up and breaks through this level here at 71.39, 71.40. Then it will come back to test because the ATR will be below it. That would be where I would want to enter, okay? It would not be right here, okay? Now, this is also showing me, do you see how this is flatlining? It has no pulse, okay? So that's telling me it's not a good time to trade the Aussie right now. So until I start getting some movement here, I'm probably not interested in the Aussie. Any questions on the Aussie US dollar? A lot of times my clients will hear me call this snake bite. Okay, and one reason is because I'm scared of snakes. So when I think of a snake, I immediately back up and won't take a trade. So let's go and look at the Euro Yen. Now the Euro Yen, you can see here, there is a 3-bar reversal. This is what's considered a pivot low, okay? So this should push price. I would anticipate it pushing back to this ATR at 127.40, okay? Now, could it get caught in, at 126 or 127, I'm sorry? Yeah, it could. but my experience is it likes that little ATR there. You can also see that the stochastics is curling up. You can also see that this is kind of flatlining now. All of this is indicating, hey, yeah, this might go up, okay? Then when I go down to the daily, again, you've got that ATR right up above you, okay? I do not like to enter a market at a resistance point, okay? Just doesn't make good sense to me. So in this case, and with this stochastics showing that it's overbought at the moment, I'm expecting this to come down, potentially test the 124.77 area. Now, why do I think that's going to act as support? Well, number one, it did over here, okay? But also because if I come back to my weekly chart, this is showing that little hook up, okay? That tells me this market should go up a little bit, okay? So I'm expecting this to at least break this ATR, but I think that this area right here is going to support it to push it up, okay? Any questions on the euro yen? Let's go look at the euro dollar. Now, the euro dollar to me is real interesting because right here there is a potential of a double bottom, okay? Now, this is what we would consider a doji. A lot of people think, oh, immediately on a doji, I got to go in the market. No, it's the next bar that tells you, okay? So what I want to see is the next bar. Does this develop bullish, okay? So knowing that, I know I'm not going to be trading my weekly this week as it stands right now. So now I'm going to look over to the daily chart because I know my trade will probably come from the daily chart. In this case, you can clearly see that it did come back and it did test this little bottom here, okay? Now, a lot of people will use the very low on that. I actually use that close because it actually shows they come back, they tried to close lower, they were unable to, and buyers pushed it up, okay? Additionally, you have a stochastics that's moving up. So I would be anticipating this to potentially move up to perhaps the moving averages right here about 1260, 1270, or even to the ATR at 1285. Okay. Now, if that level provides resistance, then more than likely it's going to go back and it's going to take out this low at 1185. But again, that would be in the future. Okay. How is Brexit affecting the euro? We're getting some spikes, but I've seen a lot of it. Really, it's on the euro British pound, and it's on the GBP US dollar and the GBP JPY. I haven't seen a lot of it affecting the euro dollar, which makes sense because, I mean, it's the euro and the dollar. But now the euro and the British pound have had a lot of spikes. Let's see. What are your purple, red, and blue dots? Okay. This is it's a couple of different things on here. Okay. The ATR can either be blue or red KM. And there's two ATRs built in here. So the furthest ATR is the dots. The closest one is the red plus sign. Okay. But then you have the purple dots. That is your medium-term moving average. The blue is your fast, and the gray is your slow-moving average. Does that answer your question? Now, if you go down to the 360, And let me explain why I can go to the 360. I know I'm not going to get a trade on the weekly. My trade's probably going to come off of my daily, okay? So I can look at 360 for timing, okay? Do you see how you're right at the purple dot and you're getting a bullish bar? Now, I know this is early, but I wanted to point it out because this bullish bar, if it closes above 1225, okay, then more than likely it's going to go up and break through here, okay? And that's kind of what I would be anticipating. No, ATR stands for average true range, Yolanda. It's an algorithm that we actually use in trading. So any questions on the euro? Now, how could you utilize Nadex for the euro? Well, if your bias is to the long side, you could use a binary option. You could use a call spread. You could use a touch bracket. To me, this is not a great trade setup for the touch brackets because right now price is at 12.18, okay? And this ATR is up here at 12.90, okay? So in this case, I can make just as much money just doing a binary or a call spread versus a touch bracket. But a lot of it too depends on my risk level. You know, when you're looking at the levels, what's your risk? Because I am a big proponent of looking at risk versus your reward, okay? But, you know, my bias on this would probably be to the upside on both of these charts, okay? Now, what if I didn't like the counter trend trade? And you are counter trend trading because it's in a downtrend. Well, in that case, if you just waited for it to come back to this ATR at 1287, when it gets there, more likely than not, the stochastics is going to be over extended. Then you could do a trend trade, that would be your touch bracket, that would go down and potentially take out this low at 1182. Okay? Let's go and look at the British pound yen. Very volatile. Here you have the British pound yen. That was one heck of a move there. Okay, right now, just looking at the weekly, you know, this would have been a pivot low. Okay, it's what we call a ghost pivot. Okay, and that means that this bar did not close above 146.47. Okay, so this to me makes me doubt this pivot, and I would be looking for it to come back and test 143.78 or even the ATR at 141.18. Okay, so overall, I would say that I'm thinking that this is probably going to more than likely go down. Okay, now what if I look down to my daily? Do you see how you just curled over here? That is divergence between this high and this high because it's making lower highs. I would think that more likely than not, this will come back and try to test 143.57 at the moment. Okay, it was unable to break through that ATR. Okay, so that's one thing I would be looking at. The next thing I would be looking at is this RSI. Again, you're getting into snake bite. Okay, I don't like snake bite. I don't like snakes. So immediately that tells me I need more information before I can go into this trade. Well, where would I get that additional information? Come down to the 360, okay? I would be interested in how this bar closes, especially with this being down here near overextended levels. I would think that this will close above 145.69. Okay, it's got 6 hours. So it's not like, hey, I need to sit here and watch every tick. No, it's got 6 hours until it finishes. Okay, so I know immediately I wouldn't have a trade set up. Any questions on the British pound yen? All right, let's go and look at the British pound dollar. Brexit has been creating a very volatile market, okay? On this case, you know, I'm saying, okay, it could come down to 1.2927, even 27.53, okay? But overall, this looks like it's still going to go down. Now, does the daily show the same picture? Well, the daily, they just tested all of these moving averages here, and they held, okay? That, to me, would be significant. They held, and a pivot high formed, okay? So I would be looking for the British pound dollar to actually go down. I would think that it could potentially break through the 29.16 area. So looking at that, I'm kind of interested in going short, right? No, because when you go down to the 360, you are overextended to the short side. Remember, I told y'all at the beginning, there are a number of ways you can trade with Nadex, okay? You could actually look at the 360 and say, hey, my bias on the 360 is to the upside, and potentially do an out-of-the-money binary option to the upside, and then you could turn around and do a touch bracket to the downside, okay? What would I want to see for those scenarios? Well, number one, if I was going to trade this, I would go down in time again, okay, to a lower time frame. And that's where I would pull this one in. And we do a British pound, do a British pound. So this is a 360. This is overextended, okay? So this is the one that I think potentially will go up, okay? All right, you just got a bullish bar here, but look at your stochastics. You're overextended. So now I've gone from a weekly to a daily to a 360 down to a 60-minute. Now I know I still have to wait some because this is overextended. I would prefer that it be down here at the moving average at 30.20 with a stochastics that's overextended. And then I would say, okay, now is the time for me to potentially do a binary to the long side, okay? And then when it gets up here, I'm going to do the same thing on a touch bracket. Does everybody understand that? So let's go down to the USDCAD. The USDCAD looks like it formed a pivot low right here. But this bar is going to determine whether it was actually a pivot low with the stochastics already turning down. It would not surprise me if this continues down. Now, if I look down to the daily on that, the one thing that I would see is you made a high here, and they have failed not once, but twice to actually take out this high, okay? So I'm very interested in tomorrow's USD Canadian bar, okay? So this would be like on my watch list. I want to see what develops tomorrow on the USD CAD, okay? I would be very interested in that one because I think it's actually going to potentially form to the downside when you go down to the 360, potentially down to 33.29. Where would that be? That would be down here. Now, if it closes down there, that's going to give you a pivot high formation reversal bar, okay? And that potentially means it's going to go down, but it's got support at 3,300, and then you have support at 3,212. So this is one I would probably watch, but there's no potential trade setups on it whatsoever right now. Let's go look at the USD Swiss franc. And the USD Swiss franc has not been able to break the ATR on that weekly chart. That means it's a strong area of resistance. Did you see how the stochastics is curling down? Okay, so this tells me that potentially the USD, oh, sorry, that's on the USD Canadian. Okay, now we have the USD Swiss franc. Sorry about that. All right, so it held right here at this line of congestion dots. Now notice that that line has held since November 5th of 2018. They have tested it once, twice, 3 times now. But you're also getting a pivot low formation here. It was a ghost pivot because it did not close above the high of the bar, but you did get a bullish bar here. That tells me that this moving average, it's gray. You might barely be able to see it, but it's actually providing support. Okay, so it is significant because it's providing support. Okay, that tells me we should go back and go above 1.008. Okay, that's what I would be looking at. It's 1.0089. Potentially above the 1.0122 area. Okay, I would anticipate it taking out this high, which is why that red line is there. Now, if I go down to the daily, does the daily support this outlook? No. The reason is you're right at an area that is potentially going to resist price. You have an ATR, the slow moving average, and the medium-term moving average. You also have a stochastics that is overextended. Okay, this very well, and I see this a lot, where this will tick blue, but then it comes right back down to red. Okay, and right now that's the way it's looking. Okay, I would not be going long with a stochastics that's overextended. Then when you come down to the 360, also overextended, I would at least let that get back to 99.73 before I even thought about taking a trade on the USD Swiss franc. Any questions on that? Okay, let's go down to the USDJPY. The USDJPY used to move a lot, and it's gotten a little bit slow now. Now here you can see that this ATR, the plus sign, has been holding, okay? Even though you have these bullish bars, this ATR has been holding, okay? Could they close above it? They could, especially with that stochastics ticking up like it has, okay? But I would want to see this ATR broken before I took a position to the long side. Now, when you go down to the daily, do you see how overextended this is to the long side? You know, this may reach up to 112.23, but it has got to come back and test for support. The one thing that's going to make it continue up is support. It's going to push it up. Right now, it doesn't have it, okay? And with this stochastics being overextended, I would wait for this to come back. It could potentially test this blue line, 111.29, or even test the ATR at 110.73. Then, when you go down one more time frame to the 360, you see you're making higher highs. I mean, just higher high, higher high, higher high. Your stochastics is making lower highs. That's showing you there's divergence, meaning more likely than not, price is going to retrace down to about 111.37. Okay, that's where I would anticipate it going. And then if support forms, that's when it would go up, okay? And again, you know, there are all kinds of ways that Nadex gives us to trade any of this, okay? It's just a matter of sitting here and waiting for the setup. Now, does anybody have any questions? Okay, if we do not have any questions, then I wanted to let you know how to get in touch with me. First, my website is www.tradershelpdesk.com, and you can email me at gm@tradershelpdesk.com as well. Now, any questions? Oh, thank you, Keith. Thank you, KM. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. I do appreciate you being with me on a Sunday evening, and I will be back next Sunday at the same time.